Hello, welcome to I Am Healing Podcast with Isaac George. This is episode 2, mental awareness. So, what is mental health? Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress related to others and make healthy choices. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce my guest co-host today. Hi, Zaina. How are you?
Hi, Isaac. How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you so much for coming.
Of course. So, I'm Zaina. I'm a social worker here in Houston, and I know Isaac because we work together in the field of social work.
Yes. Yes, we have. So you were like the first person I thought, when I thought about this topic, I was like, okay, no, I need to call her. I need to message her because you talk so much about mental health, and on your Instagram there's so many mental health awareness, de-stressors and stuff.
Self-care.
And it's very, very important to talk about mental health. It's very, very important because a lot of people deal with mental health, but I don't think I don't think that people shine a light on it as much as it needs to shine. Like, what do you think about that?
Oh, I completely agree. I think with mental health, there's a lot of stigmas behind it. And I just have an opportunity to bring awareness on Instagram. I really made my page for fun because I was like, I think I'm going to make it a little bit more personal, more understanding and relatable to the real world that we are living in, because that is mental health.
Yeah.
And so I do like to have a little bit more fun because it's Instagram. You're not going to have therapy on Instagram, but you can make it a little bit more fun, enthusiastic, and, caring for yourself and talking about mental health and talking about different topics in a way that you probably won't reach an audience that's unaware. So.
That's good. I like that you said that you made it more fun because it is such a serious topic, and I think that's why a lot of people avoid it because they think that you have to look at like the definitions of it, which we're going to dive into. But healing from it or dealing with it, coping with it, you can make it fun.
Yes, and I agree. I think therapy can have its serious moments, and it should, because you are dealing with very difficult topics, especially when it comes to your mental health and when it comes to personal. But, ideally, Instagram is not going to give you therapy. And so what I like to do is promote it in a very fun and therapeutic way so that it doesn't come across as, like mental health is a bad thing, where we could talk about it and actually be like, okay, this is something that she put out there,
Right.
So.
Exactly. So what does mental health mean to you?
So mental health can mean a variety of things. It just depends on the circumstances. But mental health overall is, your psychological, your emotional, and your social well-being. And social work, we focus a lot about environmental aspects. And that's why we say social work is political, because there's a lot of systematic politics that goes with it.
There is. I never thought of it like that.
So that's why we say social work is political. Most mental health people will say it's political too, which why it's important to ask your therapist what are their political beliefs. Some of them might not say anything just because they like to stay neutral. I definitely think, mental health and politics kind of go hand in hand, and how we see.
That's interesting you say that.
Yeah, they kind of go hand in hand. I feel like social work sometimes is just a Band-Aid to fix a bigger issue, which can be, problematic. But it is also we should own the truth, right? We should know the honest truth of what's going on with our mental health.
Absolutely. So, what would you? Okay. Well, what would you say? Out of because there's different types of mental health. What would you say that in your personal life that you've dealt with as far as when it comes to mental health? Like which one?
I definitely think, mental health has, you have your everyday stressors in life that happens, and
Mm-hmm.
that could be something that you struggle with your mental health. And then you could also have a traumatic event happen, or there's some
Mm.
trauma, and that could also happen as well. Personally, I see a lot of my own mental health struggles when I'm doing a lot of transitions in my life.
Mm.
I definitely see it when I'm going through school or when I have a big family, when something changes in my family dynamic. I definitely can see those stressors come up in my own mental health.
Mm.
So, I definitely think it just depends on what occasion it is
Yeah.
and what happens in that circumstances. But, I've dealt with, patients or clients that have had very traumatic events,
Mm-hmm.
and it's, opened my eyes to see, like, okay, this is completely out of what I know, and to
Yeah.
learn and to be a better social worker because
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah. That's good. I think like the number one, me personally, the number one mental disorder I dealt with a couple of years back was depression. And one thing I realize is that sometimes we can be in a depression but don't even know like we're
Right.
depressed.
Right.
And so what happened was I was in a situation. I was living on the southwest side of Houston, and then I moved to the north side. I was in a relationship, and I kind of gave up my apartment at that time and everything because I kind of put how I felt on the back burner for a relationship. So we end up like moving together and stuff like that. It ended up not working out. And so like I had to take a job on the north side. I had to like uproot my whole entire life.
A lot of
It was
transitions.
a lot of transition. And I gained this weight. I was eating more. I was drinking more.
Hmm.
And I would just out of nowhere have these blackout moments to where I didn't know like what was going on. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, okay, well maybe I'm just being a tourist. I'm
being
like, maybe I'm just being a
just
tourist.
being a Taurus.
Yeah, but like the weight gain came rapid. Like I was weighing like
Yeah.
194, and I would have like a lot of sad moments and try to cope with them by drinking and doing other things. And so I met with a therapist. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get into therapy, and she was like, you've been in a depression, and I thought it was just a relationship, but I was in a depression before that. And so I
Yeah.
had to like acknowledge like, okay, this is where you are, because sometimes I think we just know that we're going through changes, but we
Right.
don't know like
The
exactly,
diagnosis.
yeah, the diagnosis of it, or we don't even know
Right.
like what is this I'm feeling. Am I just being the B word? Am I just having a moment? Am I just not wanting to deal with someone?
Right.
And then, am I just being moody? But what I realized is like when my depression, when things became repeated, when it became repeated, things were repeatedly done. I was repeatedly having anxiety. I was
Changes.
repeatedly,
Yeah.
rapidly, I would say, I was rapidly gaining weight and stuff like that, and drinking and eating,
And it was all
and
consistent.
everything was consistent. Okay, so now this is a problem.
Right.
So during that time, I felt that I didn't want to hear that. Like I didn't want when she said that. I said no, I'm not, because I didn't believe in that.
Right.
Like you don't want to be
No,
diagnosed
you don't
with
want to have a label. Nobody
right with a
wants a
mental
label.
disorder,
Yeah.
right? Like you don't want to be like,
Yeah, like there's definitely a stigma in having that label
mm-hmm,
associated with it. But when you're diagnosed, just know that it is not define you. It is just, a time and duration
yeah,
of your life where you might be struggling with that,
yeah,
or, you've been struggling with it for so long. And then, as mental health professionals, we know the diagnosis, we know the time frame that things happen,
mm-hmm,
and we're giving you diagnosis to inform you and to make you more aware. But, it sounds like you went through a very difficult time. It sounds like you had a lot of hardships for you to get diagnosed with that, and getting that label, yeah, like it doesn't feel great. But at the end of the day, you did have an answer, and
right, yeah,
you have a choice to kind of decide how you're going to take a leap of what direction of your healing you want to take.
right. So my question to you is like, when you hear that label, because I felt that, and I know a lot of
Hmm.
people out there, like when you hear depression, anxiety, PTSD,
Right.
or whatever, like what are some ways that as humans that we can cope with hearing that? Because when I heard that, I
Yeah.
rejected it and I said, nope, that's not
Well,
me.
I think it depends on, each person to their own ability to comprehend that. But
Hmm.
I definitely think having a good therapist and someone that you can connect with to give you that diagnosis is really important. Building that rapport, having a good connection so that your therapist can be like, hey, I think you
Hmm.
might have depression. And then you
Right.
don't take it so lightly, but it is heavy, but maybe process it with them so it's not as like you can't change the outcome because you can always change, but it's up to you to determine your well-being too.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. And I think that that's why I like, because there's so many different ways that you can cope with um, mental health, because I feel like we all have mental health. Some of us can cope with them better, but we all have dealt with mental health to
Right.
some capacity in our lives. But I like the 3 A's, the 3 A's: awareness, accepting,
And
and action and stuff like that. So I feel like
yes.
I had to accept it first and then become aware of like what is my problems, like what is exactly is going on,
Right.
and like what is the action that I can do to change those
Things.
personal things. Like, have you ever experienced that?
No,
The
I
three
completely,
A's,
yeah,
the three
the
A's.
3 A's, I can kind of see that with motivational interviewing and the stages of
Mm-hmm.
change, how we kind of, build like where we are pre-contemplation, contemplation, how we're going to get
Yeah.
there to the actions are like the sustaining part. So I definitely can recognize that. And I definitely think that's an important factor too, because it's you to determine your determination on how you're going to heal and how you're going to progress. Not saying that you shouldn't have support because everyone deserves support. That is like my social work. Like everyone deserves support. Just make sure you're getting the right support as you're
Mm-hmm.
going through those changes. And then at the end of the day, it's your self determination on how you want to proceed with your healing because a therapist has so many approaches, so many
Right.
theorists, so many self care hacks that they can give you. But at the end of the day, you got to implement what you enjoy and what you love and what you want to
Mm-hmm.
promote for your healing journey.
Right. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I get that. And so I had to learn that. And so I really had to, for one, be aware, no, well, accept what is, and then be aware, and then take action. So, like, in my awareness, I found out that there's a lot of other people that have been through the same thing that I've been
Yes.
through, like going to support groups. A lot of
Oh,
people think that
yes.
support groups are just for AAA people. It's like, well, no, they have different support
Support group.
groups
Yes, they
for
have a
different
lot of
things. It's
support
not
groups.
just AAA, but I was around a group of people that went through what I went through, and that helped me cope with that.
Yes. I definitely think support groups definitely highlight your awareness
Mm-hmm.
and can kind of bring you like, oh, I'm not the only one out here
Right.
struggling.
Exactly.
Like, oh, it's not just a stigma. A lot of people deal with it.
Exactly.
So I definitely think support groups are a great way to promote your health, but
Mm-hmm.
your healing journey.
Yes. Yes. So, like, when people have the stigma, like, I don't believe in no therapist can fix me, or I can vent to my friends. I don't need to vent to a therapist because I can vent to my friends. Like, a lot of people think that venting to their friends and that's therapy because I'm getting it
Yeah.
out. What is difference between letting it out to someone and
Mm.
then also
Letting out to a
to a
therapist.
therapist? Yes.
So, everyone says, like, oh, I have my best friend I can vent to,
Mm-hmm.
which is great. You have a support system for sure. That's great. But at the end of the day, like, who's going to hold you accountable to your wants and needs and desires in your healing
Mm.
process? And that's going to be a therapist. You could have your best friend telling you to do this, this, and this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is they're not a mental health professional, first off. And then
Right.
also,
Right.
they're not going to know exactly what approach to take. And then it's also accountability too. Like the therapist is going to hold you to a higher standard because
Right.
they want you to get better for yourself, you know. They
Mm-hmm.
want you to be in a better place so that you can thrive. And so I definitely enjoy venting to my best friend, you know.
Right.
Everyone loves a good vent
Right. I love my
session.
friends.
But just be careful and mindful with people, you know, can they handle that? And
Mm-hmm.
can they take all my venting? You know, at the end of the day, you can vent every single day. They're not going to really want to
Right.
be your friend at the end of the day, right? They want
Right.
someone they can enjoy their life with too.
Yes.
Hopefully,
Oh, that's good.
hopefully
That was
that.
good. I love that. Yes, that's we gotta tweet that later. That's
Yeah,
good.
so hopefully, you know, they can understand you're on a healing journey. They might be on a healing journey too. And y'all can kind of discuss that. But finding a therapist that could probably be your friend in real life, but isn't, you know, that's the most ideal therapeutic relationship you can
Hmm.
have.
Yeah, that's good. So one with mental, because we can go on and on about mental health because there's so
Yes.
many
Different topics.
different topics. I think depression is one of the biggest ones because from my
Right.
research, depression is like
It is a big
the
topic.
is like the biggest one. So what would your advice be to someone that is dealing with depression?
Yeah, major depressive disorder has a lot of symptoms
Mm-hmm.
associated with it. There's not just like, oh, you're just sad for a season, you know. But yeah, there's other symptoms that go along with it. There could be other diagnoses that go along with it too. And so it's important to understand that, you know, you're not alone. Sometimes I think with MDD, you could be in a lonely, isolated state. And I
Yeah.
feel like getting out of that state is important. And it's going to take a lot to get there. You know, it's not just like overnight. That's why the suicide risk and, you know, just depends on the level of depression too. It's like low, moderate,
Mm-hmm.
severe. And so just understanding that, you know, at that severe level, that is, you know, when we do a lot of suicide risk assessments. That's when we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about suicide and, you know, if they have a plan or if they don't have a plan.
Yeah.
And I think it's so like stigmatized, like nobody wants to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to bring more awareness to it and talk about it. And just like we, even with moderate symptoms or low symptoms, you know, just if you know that you might be dealing with it, hey, like it is okay to talk to somebody.
Right.
It is okay to call up the phone lines.
Yeah.
You know, there's not a lot of access to free resources, but there is
Mm-hmm.
resources.
Right.
And I definitely promote calling your local hotlines. Like, they're free. I'm like, they're out there, you know, try to call them, you know, if you are at a higher risk or even low risk, just someone to talk to. And they might have better resources to give you
Right.
to find a therapist.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And I think sometimes too, it's not just therapy because a lot of people don't have the money to go to a therapist.
yeah.
I think when I made the decision to opt into therapy, it was just like, okay, I need someone from the outside, not
Mhm.
friends, not family. I need someone to hold me accountable, but I had to hold myself accountable first
Right.
and know exactly what's what. And so I feel like when I created my I am brand, well, I know that when I created my I am brand, my affirmations came with me getting out of my depressions because I was telling myself,
Self
I am
am.
this, I am that. Because when I
Yes.
was feeling low, when I was feeling fat, when I was feeling like I was alone by
Mhm.
myself, when I was feeling like I didn't want to move on in life, I had to change the trajectory of that and give myself like and tell myself and really have to write it out. Like I had to write it out and I put sticky
Mhm.
notes on my mirror. So I had to like
Right.
really write
Yeah,
it
no,
out
that's
and
good.
tell myself like I am this, I am that.
Right.
And so sometimes
Sometimes
I
you
think
have to write it out.
yes, and I think a lot of times with us as humans, we don't realize the strength that we have within.
Right. And it does take a lot
Yes.
to get there.
Yes.
It does
Yes.
take a lot to get
Yes.
there. And I definitely think, you know, if you have a support system, if you have a therapist, that's great because they can kind of guide you through that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't, finding resources within your community is definitely important. And
Yes.
then, I think that's why case management is fun because you meet people
Is it
that.
fun? Is it fun?
It's
Do
because
we have fun?
I feel like I always have fun because there's a lot of
Yeah,
people that
it's
don't know about the resources, and I feel like I'm just a resource factor.
yes, we have resources, but it's like, is it fun? Yeah.
Yeah, so.
So, what are some ways that you cope with? What are some ways that you cope?
So I have a lot of anxiety. I never
Okay.
say that publicly, because oh my gosh, I'm a social worker. You know what I mean? But a
Right.
lot of people that are in the mental health field have struggled too. So,
Yes.
but I have a lot of anxiety. I have general anxiety disorder, and I think a lot of my coping skills has to do with meditation. We do a lot of deep breathing. I can kind of tell when my nervous system is like a little shaky.
Yeah.
Oh, this is like gonna make me nervous, or this is gonna make me anxious, and so I kind of process through that with meditation. And I like to journal a lot too. Journaling is great to just process your journals and write down your feelings and kind of work through that. There's great journals out there to have like prompts that you can work through. There's so many therapists promoting journals, and I love that because I love to journal and I love to meditate too. And I also like to spend quality time with my family. I know a lot of people don't talk about quality time with people, but quality time with a group of people can
Yes.
really help you.
It really can. Yes.
And so I do like to spend time with my family because that's like my people.
Yay.
And
Yeah.
then I do have a lot of friends that support me as well. So those are like my coping skills right there.
I love that. I
And
really
I
do
also go
love
to
that.
therapy too. So like
Yes, everybody needs a therapist. I'm
the
telling y'all.
therapist needs a
It
therapist.
can get a litlittle expensive. Maybe I will,
Yes.
with this post, I can find some cheap therapists in Houston, Texas.
Find some reason. Yeah, therapy, like the whole therapy, like funding and all that. That's also political as too. It can go into details about how insurance is like scamming therapists too.
Yes.
So it is just so political nowadays. But if you have a good therapist, hold on to them because, they're trying to hold on to you too.
Yeah.
If y'all have that good connection, therapeutic relationship, and y'all are actually, healing through that, I definitely recommend working with them, continuing.
Yeah, and the thing I love that you said about family and friends, because that's how I realized, like, because I love everybody, and but having the people that really understand you and really support you in the area where you're at in that particular time in life, that is so important because you
Right.
have so many people that deal with mental disorders that family, friends, to turn their back on them thinking that they're just weird or they're just this and that. So having those people that understand, hey, I know where you are, I'm here for you, even if I
Right.
cannot give you the correct terminology or the correct verbiage, I'm here for you just to be there for you. Yeah,
Support,
to be your
yeah.
support. So yes, that's
Yeah.
I think that was a lot of one of my biggest thing was coming out of my depression was having that support, having those people that were there to say, I know where
Yeah.
you are. I love you. I care about you. Heal, get better.
Right.
Yeah.
I definitely like to promote like healthy relationships. If you have good support systems in your life, try to build those healthy relationships and connections because we're humans. We thrive off of connection. But a lot of people are isolated too, and they're in a depression state or they have anxiety, etc. And so, I think with those, if you're dealing with isolation or you're lonely, it's trying to get out of that and trying to find a relationship with a connection with somebody or
Right.
trying to find a group of people you can connect with, I think is important.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I definitely agree with you that, support systems are great to have if you have them, and you can definitely thrive as a human with that additional coping, I guess, skill that you can add to the mix.
Right. Yeah. Well, I hope that someone takes away something. I'm pretty sure they're going to take away a lot, but it's so big talking
Right.
about mental disorders is so big.
Right.
So I kind of wanted to dive into like the depression part because a lot of people, that's like the number one, is
Right.
like
A
dealing with
lot.
depression, and you don't even know that you're dealing with depression. So like you said, call a hotline, seek help, be around positive
Yeah.
people, go to a
Look at the symptoms.
yes. So what would you say the top 5 symptoms of depression?
So I would say that, the top five, maybe feeling isolated, obviously sadness,
Mm-hmm.
you're feeling, lonely, probably irritability too.
Mm-hmm.
You might be dealing with grief when grief has a whole bunch of lists of emotions, denial, sadness,
Mm-hmm.
etc. And then, I think depression is just what was I gonna say? I haven't even done this diagnosis yet on my page yet. This
Is
will be my
that?
next one. I've been doing anxiety, but also just feeling completely alone is like
Mm-hmm.
a big one.
Yeah. Well, you hit that on the nail. Like anxiety, that's a big one too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anxiety and depression are the two major ones, and they kind of
Yes.
go hand in hand. And that people just like to throw this diagnosis around, but this is why it's important to go to a mental health professional to get properly diagnosed, so you know the duration of time, what's causing it, and how to move forward.
That's good. Yeah, I chose this topic because I really want people to deal with the 3 A's. Of course, there's other stuff that y'all can go out there and look, but I feel like
Yes.
what worked for me was awareness and
Yes.
acceptance and action.
Yes.
Being, so thank you so much for coming on. You have
Of
enlightened us.
course, Isaac. Thank you for having me. I hope I can give a little bit of mental health awareness with this
Yes.
30 minutes that we have. But I'm super glad I came, and thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome, and thank you so much for even coming. And if because this is your field, I want to give you the closing remarks on the person that is dealing with any mental disorder, whether it's PTSD, depression, anxiety, whatever. Like, what would be your takeaway?
So, my takeaway is that you are stronger than any diagnosis. But it's up to your self determination. Mental health is important, and it is a stigma, but having a diagnosis does not define you, and that you are strong and capable to promote a thrive and well life.
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm gonna say.
Hey, that was kind of on the spot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
But that was awesome, though. That was good, though.
But having a thrive
That was
life, a
awesome.
well life, and to promote wellness and strongness.
Yes. And if you are hurting, please get help and seek help outside of friends and family. And know that there are groups and support groups that will help you. And even subscribe, and tell us your story. And maybe we can share some
Yes.
light on that. And we can send you some resources. It can be privately, because I know that mental health is very, it's a lot. And it can go very deep.
There are
But
national resources in the community, and then there's local as well.
yes.
So
Yes.
Google, honey.
Yes, Google it. If you choose to inbox or like or subscribe, please follow her. Please follow me. Like and subscribe. And yes, we will direct you to the right people that you need, like she said, in your local community or nationwide.
Yes.
So thank you so much,
Thank
Zayna,
you
for
so
being
much.
here.
I am healing.
Yes, I am healing. We got to get the world to heal so we can be better as a
Yeah.
whole.
We can thrive.
Yes, so I like that, thrive.
Thrive.
So thank you, the Spears Production Podcast in Houston. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And please like, subscribe, tell us your honest opinions on this episode. If you have
Yes.
a story that you want to share, please comment. If you want to inbox, you can do that as well. If you need resources, again, like I said, please feel free to inbox, and we'll direct you all to the right people that
Right.
can help you heal. from your mental disorder or whatever you're dealing with.
Check out our social media platforms. I have resources on there too.
Yes,
So,
you do.
yes, so check it out.
Yes. Alrighty. So this wraps up our episode 2 on mental health awareness. Again, thank you all. Thank you, Zaina.
Thank you,
And that
Isaac.
is a wrap.
Bye.